Welcome, everybody. Thank you once again. This is Rafa with Mystic Times. I'm one more time very happy to have everybody there joining us and sharing in this adventure, in this exploration of all the amazing topics we've been covering, from consciousness and spirituality to more maybe practical things, and also to not that consciousness and spirituality aren't practical, but the practical aspects as well as the more airy and etheric aspects, but also looking at the supernatural and paranormal stuff and all of those things that we woo-woo people like to look into and think about. And today I'm very happy we're going to do something different this time. I have with me Dani Katz, and I'll bring her I'll bring her on in just a second, but I wanna make like a pre-phase or whatever, just letting you guys know we're gonna look into the idea, and we're going to look into language, which is one of Dani's fortes, let's say, and I think we're going to at least explore some interesting ideas and see what comes up with regards to language and how we use it. And my intention today is to try to go to what seems to be kind of the root of the thing. So without further ado, Dani Katz, how are you?
Hi, Rafa. I'm well. How are you?
I'm well too. So we've already spoken a little bit before, so it's kind of weird, you know, saying hello again and like
it's performative
for the cameras. But yeah, I'm happy that you're here. I'm very excited to talk again. I remember last time you kind of baptized this thing. You called it the Aquarian Dialogues, and I really liked the name. So I'm calling all my conversations with you the Aquarian Dialogues, and this would be the Aquarian Dialogues number 3. So very happy for that idea, and yeah, I'm hoping we can continue doing more of this with the passing of time, because I really like speaking with you. I will always remember you sort of you held space for me and coached me through like getting more clear in my purpose and in stuff that I was going through. This was last year, and it was great. And yeah, I'm always very thankful for your assistance in that. You're very good. You asked like such good questions, you know, that you made my mind and my heart go to places that I hadn't been there, or helped me like get clarity with looking into those spaces within myself. So yeah, I'm very excited about having had that opportunity, and very thankful for your disposition also to be here on the show, and yeah, and talk about talking and talk about language.
Cool. Well, I'm honored to have helped christen the name of our particular series. I'm very happy to know that our chat had value for you, and mostly I love your bitchin' background.
Yeah, you know, before I had these. Okay, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it out, but the quality of your video here started going down. So I'm gonna try it again, and we'll see if it works, or if I need to change it. Which was it this one? Yeah, here we go. Okay, let's try the animated version, and if not, we go to the static. I don't know. It's kind of like a Buddhist thing, the other one, right?
Yeah. It's still with the cloud theme, although I guess the other one could kind of be ocean waves.
Yeah, I think it's clouds. But what about yours? I'm very curious, since you started using this background. First I started looking up for mandalas, but I wasn't convinced with the ones I found first, so I went with the clouds. But yours is kind of like a mandala, but I don't know. There's what do you know the story behind it?
Yeah, so mine is 1,000-petaled lotus. I actually drew this one by hand. It's the same one that's on my book cover, and it's just the 1,000-petaled lotus is an image that I love to trip out on and meditate on. And for mostly, it was just because my background is so messy, it's so cluttered. So I was looking into buying like a physical screen. And then I remembered Robert Phoenix uses these kind of digital backgrounds. And I was like, let me give that a try. Seems to be working.
Yeah. And actually, now that I'm like focusing on you, the different rings, they start to like, they get very trippy, you know. If you focus on the drawing, it's like, okay, so a bunch of triangles in a circle. But
when you go in the middle,
oh yeah,
ooh.
wow, it moves. I love those optical illusions, you know, those. Well, there's so many, you know, even those with like that you have to like cross your eyes and it brings up something 3D. Those are the trippiest.
I have yet to be able to actually see those.
Wow, I'm
that person that's like, I don't know what everyone else is seeing.
Yeah. I've been able, I think, with one or two. It's pretty interesting when you actually get the thing to pop out.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I found to do it is to start by crossing my eyes, or you know how when you're looking at somebody and, for example, this has happened to me to be speaking with somebody who is speaking from the heart, and you feel how they are speaking their truth, and with such transparency that, for example, with one of these people, the lights in the room, they felt like they dimmed, and the room went like a little bit darker, but not darker in a negative sense, like when you dim the lights, you know, with the dimmer, it felt like focus, you know, on the person. And sometimes the other thing that I was trying to bring up is when you're looking at some people and what you start to see is kind of like an aura around them. You know, have you had that experience? So this feels similar, because sometimes when I have had the experience of seeing auras or whatever it could be, in a certain way is when I start to like unfocus the person and to kind of cross my eyes or look behind them. You start seeing what's around them. And with these 3D, I don't know what they're called, these 3D illusions, something similar to that is what helped me like pop the image out. And then it's kind of like immediately it disappears again, and you're like, it's not there.
Right.
And I get something similar with your drawing. I think that was the basic point. But yeah, 1,000 petal lotus, that's like crown chakra, right?
The 1,000 petaled lotus?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it actually, like which chakra it corresponds to. That kind of makes sense.
I think so.
I like the simplicity of it. I mean, there's so many, you know, Tibetan Buddhist mandalas that I think are beautiful. But yeah, I just like the simplicity of this one.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing here, the Sahasrara or crown chakra is found at the top of the crown of the head, and is called the 1,000 petal lotus, literally because of the symbols lotus that has 1,000 petals. So yeah, it seems to be, and yeah, that's why it's so trippy, because it's definitely a kind of portal to one of the invisible parts of existence, I guess.
Yeah, it makes sense that it's the crown chakra. I appreciate knowing that. For me, myself, like in terms of human design, my crown chakra is always wide open. And of course, in terms of like this being on my book, and now that I'm folding it into more of my brand, I mean, I think that my content is very thinky. It's very intellectually based. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm looking at my own human design also, and I think I have the same
the open crown chakra.
Yeah, I think it's open too. Yeah. Do you how good are you at the human design system?
I know it the least, because like when I work with clients, I work with their human design, their gene keys, whole genetic profile, and their astrological profile. And like as soon as I found out that I was a 5/1 and how that's described in the human design system, that helped me understand myself and how I operate quite a bit more. And when I do take the time to look into the gates, I think where I get confused with human design is the conscious unconscious and not knowing which chart to read under what circumstances. I'm sure if I studied it formally, I could figure that out, but I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, my understanding of the two charts is that one of them is the body and one of them is maybe the mind, or so one is the self and one is the not self, is what they call them. But
so is the mind the not? So I mean, I have mine right here. I have all my charts over. So mine says design, like the red is design,
the body,
the black is personality. So that would be not self, right? Personality is not self.
I think so. Yeah, and you know how they say not to make decisions from the mind, but actually from the what's it called, the inner authority.
Yes.
So I think it's like the mind has such a strong pull, but it's not the tool that we should be using to make decisions. It's confusing. It's a very, very interesting system. I remember learning about it on a podcast. Somebody was talking about astrology, and they just in passing they mentioned the human design, and I was like, wow, what's this? Interesting name. Yeah. And then you one day you mentioned the gene keys.
Yes.
And I looked into it and I saw it's kind of like I don't know what to call it, like a sub system from human design,
it's like
right?
an offshoot. It's certainly informed by it, and then
a spin-off.
Yes, it is a spin-off. And I spent more time studying the gene keys, but I understand how they kind of inform one another.
Yeah. And so this comes a little bit closer to the thing that I was very interested in looking at with you today, which is the I find it interesting. Okay, let's start with language. All right, so you're looking and working with language, looking at language and working with it and seeing. I guess you could describe this better yourself, of course, but I guess you're finding how language. I remember Terence McKenna said the universe, maybe, or the world is made of language, or the world is made of code and
words.
Of words.
The world is made of words, and when you know which words the world is made of, then you can make of it whatever you wish.
Yeah, you see, and when I first started hearing that idea, it was kind of hard to put it onto my experience, but with time, at the very least, you could definitely say, okay, so if I tell myself a story about myself and about my possibilities, my capabilities, my power, whatever, then I will maybe unconsciously not make certain decisions in life because I already think that I'm not going to be able or successful in them. So their language is creating my world, maybe not in this case by the world being made of those words, but by the world, by myself not being able to see those words in the world. Like I think I'm not capable of something, so I don't think the world is made of the words I can do this thing or something like that. Am I being confusing or?
Little bit.
So we tell ourselves stories and we try and we believe them, and
yes.
and those words, which are, we make stories, of course, maybe with images too, but at a certain point they kind of boil down to words, and then we make decisions and we live our lives based on what we think and the stories that we've told it our own selves, and therefore the world to us it becomes an image of those words that we've told ourselves.
Yes, completely. I mean, language literally shapes our brain, right? Like those neural networks that determine how we're going to perceive reality are formed of the stories that we tell ourselves and the belief systems informing those words. So if I'm walking around saying that the world is sexist and that, you know, I'm getting a bad rap in our culture because I'm a woman, then all my perception mechanisms are going to not just interpret reality that way, right? In a distorted way where like, say you and I are going out to dinner together and the waiter, you know, forgets to bring me a spoon. So in my mind, it'll be like, because I'm a woman, because he's sexist, right? Like that's how I can make meaning of that because of how the stories that I'm telling myself. But at the same time, like it's a feedback loop, right? So reality configures according to our belief systems and according to our programming. So I will then create more experiences in my world that affirm my neurology and my belief structure. So I will be treated poorly. I will get a raw end of the stick because we're not separate from the world, right? So the creative forces are responding to the words that we're telling ourselves and putting out into the morphic field. And we're constantly creating one another, but like, you know, everyone's brain is shaped differently and all of our filtration mechanisms are shaped differently because of the language that we use that shapes it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I had this kind of understanding once in an LSD trip many years ago of exactly this, how our brain filters, or maybe it's our mind, but our mind filters reality. And it's something that until you start looking at it, you don't realize it because you are behind, let's say, the filter. So you don't realize it because exactly the filter filters stuff before it reaches you. So you just get what you get and you think that is the word, that's what you think. And when you start changing the way you think about things, about life, about your place in all of this, and especially that question of is the universe or is God dangerous? Is the universe out to get you, or is the universe there to hold you and to open paths for you? Depending on how people think about those things, you know, first I remember it was with politics. There was this time when I realized, okay, I understand people are kind of stuck, and I was lucky enough to get slightly unstuck and see all of that. And I realized, okay, you can't talk to people about politics because they're like just running a program. They're not really there when they talk to you. And totally. And the same thing happens with everything, I guess, until you start looking at yourself, learning about you, learning about what your kind of knee-jerk reactions to certain incoming, what's it called, influences or impulses or whatever. When you start learning about those things, and then you start going even deeper and learning where those knee-jerk reactions have their origin, or what caused you to start thinking in a certain way and believing reality to be a certain way. And by the way, I was just thinking, you're in the same house you were last time? Yeah, I really like the background, to be honest. Like, you just moved and I saw a little bit and I thought, oh, that's the same house. I really like that. It's like a very cool, it gives me this New Mexico vibes. It's amazing.
Right. It's gotten much more cluttered since our last chat. And it was like the pressure to unclutter or just give myself a background.
Yeah. Give yourself some breathing space.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, so I was trying to, I don't know what my point in my previous rant really was, but we get kind of stuck in these loops And I'm starting to, starting or continuing to see how language plays a very important role in those loops, because it feels like language is underneath, or probably those filters from the mind that I was mentioning in this LSD trip that I had, those filters that I was able to see, they seem to be made of words.
Yes, they're completely made of words. And I think you're spot on. And you brought up the example of, like, if we think that everything's happening for us or everything's happening to us, like, just take the concept of victimhood, which I speak about quite a lot. And that victimhood is a mindset. It's a choice of languaging. No one is a victim until we ascribe words to our experience that tell us we're victims. So it's in every circumstance. This is happening to me. This is happening for me, right? The difference between those two tiny words is a completely different paradigm, either of empowerment or disempowerment. And again, I think the piece that people need to understand is that we are co-creating with reality at all times. Reality is not some sort of like objective separate thing that just happens to us. It's taking direction from our every word. So if something happens, like we were talking about censorship earlier, and I'm being a brat about it, and you are guiding me the same way I guide my clients into, like, well, what is the reframe? What's happening here? So it's either like, I'm a victim to censorship, right? And then as I say that, I'm inviting the universe to give me more censorship and more circumstances wherein I feel powerless, I'm a victim. And your framing was, this is inviting us to come up with something new. And, novelty, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So it's in that framework of like, well, I do know that everything is happening for me because in my cosmology, the universe is fundamentally kind. So the gist is like, what, where am I being guided to pivot or to, start a zine or, like whatever it is. But those possibilities are not going to come in if I frame myself as a victim to censorship. When I say this is happening in highest service to me, then I'm opening up the possibility for my, as we were talking about, my crown chakra, my imagination and the forces of the multiverse to collaborate on, like, well, what's the next thing that I'm being guided towards? And then it becomes a more like co-creative, curious way of moving through the world instead of a disempowered victim way. And that is 100% through the words that we use to describe our experience of reality.
And you make me think, like, if I think of myself if we think of ourselves as victims, in a certain way, we know we are victims. It's like whatever evidence against it comes, or at least whatever, there's some stuff that kind of goes through the filter, luckily, but in general, things that come, we will interpret them as confirmations of our already established belief and knowledge. We will get the thing and we will interpret it as, oh yeah, you see, I'm a victim, here's evidence. Whereas if we are in a different, in these things are happening for me, we will get that thing and, oh, you see, an opportunity for me to show myself that I can be excellent or something like that.
Exactly. And at the same time, yes, and because what you're saying is 100% spot on. And I think the piece that can be kind of a leap for some people is realizing that our every word is not just like setting up our own perceptions and how we're going to choose to make meaning on things. They're directives to the universe. So when I say, I only date losers who cheat on me, that's not just going to be how I'm going to interpret otherwise neutral behavior. That is a directive to the universe saying, send me losers who will cheat on me. So it's both and. It's yes, it's taking how we're going to choose to interpret and translate neutral experiences. And it's also what kind of experiences we're going to attract more of, because we are always in a co-creative dance with the multiverse by way of our language. And I think like that's really the key piece that I'm excited for people to jump into, because I've gotten quite a bit of pushback on this from people in the social justice sphere of like, well, you can't tell, someone who's born with no legs or whatever that they're not a victim. And it's like the laws of creation don't change just because we think our situation is suckier. Like these are just neutral laws of nature. So if we want to empower ourselves and create the lives and world we want to create with, there's no arguing for our victimhood. It's just understanding this is how this technology works. So how can I engage this technology such that it's helping me create what I want to be experiencing?
Yeah, I agree. It's sometimes, again, this misunderstanding of the rules, I guess, to go automatically into, okay, then this person is a victim or not a victim. It's like, why are you thinking those terms? Why narrow everything down into, and of course, nobody is saying, oh, you chose because you were born this way. Okay, then we could get into a spiritual reincarnation kind of thing and see it from that vantage point, which is totally valid and valuable. And I think I was trying to get to the thing that you just said. It's like, on the one hand, there we go. We kind of filter the world through our thoughts and the stories and the words we use. And so whatever experiences come, we will interpret them to reinforce those beliefs. But then there's this other side that you brought up very, very clearly, and which is, yeah, I think you said it's like the harder leap for people, because it's understanding you're not only not a victim, you're actually creating everything in your experience, and the way you choose to interpret things will have an effect on the cycle and the circle, the kind of iteration. It's like something comes in, how do you interpret it? Then you push it back out and it comes back, and you can kind of what's it called? You can kind of throw a wrench in the thing when something comes in, and you get through practices like meditation and stuff, you get this instant in which you're capable of seeing, oh, I was about to react in the same way as I always do, and just do like the scientific experiment. Okay, I'm going to do the opposite, maybe, or something at least that's different.
Yes. And
then see this kind of loop, how it changes from that point.
Yes, exactly. And you said it perfectly. And because it is a bit of a leap for people, a really concrete example that we can use is, like I have a friend, he's 3 years old, and he got his first spider bite, right? And you can watch it in little children, like they'll fall or they'll trip, and they're waiting to see how are the people around me going to react to this, and they'll mirror that, right? Yeah. So my little friend got bit by a spider and it swelled up, and his parents were freaking out, which of course had him freak out. Yeah. And he was getting really despondent and really upset. And I came in and I was like, spider messin', like you were just initiated into the realm of spider magic. Here's why that is so auspicious. And then all of a sudden that became exciting for him, because that's what I was reflecting. If he'd stayed in the energy field of panic and worry, yeah, it might get infected. Yeah, it might get, because that's going to affect how he's directing his immune system, right, and all of those pieces.
The placebo in that case, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, think about, and then this happens as adults as well, yeah. Someone tells us a terrible story, like a friend of mine's business closed down, and I'm like, congratulations, like you get to pivot and try something new. And that was the permission for him to get excited, versus like, oh my God, that's terrible. And then we take that pity, we internalize it. Oh my God, it is terrible. And just, the universe is that's just happening on a larger scale, and then it has more power as far as the other experiences that we're going to magnetize.
Yeah, and not to mention, it's great that you shared that with that different perspective with your little friend, because somebody can tell us now something and it will have an effect, and it can have an effect, but not to mention the stuff we were told when we were very little, and so yeah, so the spider bite example is perfect. So the little child or baby's mind is like installing all the basic operating systems, all the software that will run for the rest of his life. And so the amazing thing is how it works. The mind at that stage doesn't work in rational terms, and the adults think, okay, I'm going to teach my child rationally, and actually you will say something rational and the child's mind will interpret it symbolically. So right. You will say, oh, how horrible, the spider bite, and the child will interpret, oh, life is dangerous, I'm not safe on planet Earth. And then he eventually develops a tendency to always get in accidents or to get with people that aren't good for him, because they will confirm this thing and they will be recreated to confirm, and so on. But you injected a dose of wonder, and even something that for the child might not be that wondrous, because their mind being already in that symbolic stage. Of course it was wondrous and wonderful for him, but it's like more in tune with how his mind works at the moment. So you injected something that resonated even more with him, so he was able to dismiss what the parents were installing. So that was just an amazing example. I'm going to keep that in mind for the future, for my nephews and stuff like that.
Thank you. I ended up, I made him a little button. I drew a spider and he was like really cute. And I wrote spider medicine, and it was like, like, this is an initiation. This is something to celebrate, like you've crossed the veil. And it really was beautiful to see how it flipped it, and just noticing, it's all so much our framing and the words we use to describe. And especially with I really appreciated your framing, because with children, this is setting them up for how they're going to interpret experiences for their whole life. And I watched the panic, and I watched, his father was telling me how, it was turning into a fever and a this and that. And I was like, I got to ninja this. Like, I got to ninja this fast. This is not going well. And it was just because of how it was being framed. It wasn't because of anything that was inherently bad in the spider bite itself.
Yeah. That's amazing. Give me just one moment, Dani. I need to pause for a second. All right.
Sure.
And the spider medicine, that was really, really I don't know where you got the impulse to how did you come up with that? Was it just something in the moment?
Well, no. So it started, a very close friend of mine had a baby also about 3-4 years ago. And I noticed, parents, God bless them, but they go a little nuts. Like, they kind of lose their center around their kids. So he would tell me when things would happen, like he went in the ocean and he was wiped out by a wave, or he got a bee sting, and like he would tell me about the panic. And every time I was like, it's not the first time your kid's going to get his ass kicked. Like, this is going to keep happening, and you need to reframe this. So I started making what I called human initiation badges. And I was like, everything that he's going through that's freaking you out is him building his character and developing stronger skills and self-esteem. So I ended up getting a vintage Boy Scout sash, and I had little individual patches made for all of his human initiation. So when he got wiped out by the wave, when he got stung by a bee, when he fell down the stairs, when he had a little sister, and I send these patches for them to iron on, and just kind of wanting, because parents, I get it, they're not objective when it comes to their kids, but I don't think they realize how all their panic and fear and worry screws them up. So I've already been on this track with my friends and their kids of like, these are good things. You know, like when I was a kid, we didn't have helmets on our head when we rode our bikes, and, you know, we would fall and crash and shake it off. And I think it's kind of one of the big issues with Gen Y and Gen Z is that they're little babies who don't have any like skills to handle ouchies or having their feelings hurt or whatnot. So I'm kind of always trying to reframe things as like the things that people normally go to as terrible, that are normal human suffering that we all deal with. And reframing it as like, yeah, this is part of your earth walk. You know, you have a scar, beautiful. That's part of your story. This is something, you know, that you're going to have with you that's going to mark that time that this thing happened. And so just helping to reframe the human earth walk in this way. I'm kind of always doing that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's congratulations, level up. Very good.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember you bring up the bike thing. And what is Gen Y and Gen Z? Do you know the birth dates of those generations? I don't know which one I am.
You might, I'm guessing you're Y. I mean, we can look it up, but I know that there was, you know, it started when everyone had to wear seatbelts and everyone had to win a participation award and no one could lose at tag. And the problem is like, you have to lose, you have to fall, you have to suck at stuff and be bullied and all of those things so that you can learn and develop the tools that allow you to handle yourself in a cruel world that is always going to be unfair and brutal. It's never not going to be. Well, so it's the generations who don't have that.
You know what? I might be part of, I think maybe the Gen Z, but I think what's different in part about me is I remember telling my parents to let me make mistakes, and they were like a little bit overprotective. And I was always like reminding them to let me make mistakes or asking them to allow me to make them. Later, you know, recently, speaking again, what they understood was that I wanted to make mistakes. But it's not that you want to make mistakes, but it's that don't run away from the possibility of a mistake and go only for the thing that you know you will do correctly, because there will be no growth in that mentality. And I remember telling them, just let me make mistakes. Stop being so overprotective and allow me to make mistakes. And this goes back to the human design. I am, the numbers in mine, I think it's 5-3, 3-5, something like that. And I've been studying a little bit about it. And one of the things that they describe about this profile is exactly that they need to try many things and make mistakes in those things and try many things is the way that we learn, I guess. And yeah, it totally resonates because I've always been that way. And like you say, they're scared for their children getting hurt or whatever, so they protect them from that hurt, but unintentionally hurt them even worse because they hurt them in their core. And
the fact that they make it such a big deal, so everything becomes so dramatic, bobatic. Like if you're upset because your 3-year-old has a boo-boo, like your 3-year-old's going to have about 3 trillion more boo-boos in their lifetime. Like you need to teach them to shake it off and move on.
And to learn themselves to be strong for that.
Exactly. You know, like I feel a lot of people, you know, some feedback I get is that I'm fearless and saying what I want and whatnot. And as a journalist, you know, a big part of my path has been pitching and getting rejected and pitching and getting rejected. And for as many stories as I've had published, I've had at least 10 times more rejected. And it's the beauty of being rejected so many times that I realize it's not going to kill me. It's not going to break me. And I see this in the, you know, in the younger generations with online dating, where they won't, you know, where it's like, if you don't both match, then there's no communication, right? If someone doesn't swipe you, they're not going to. So whereas, and no offense to men, because I love men, but I don't feel like men have, you know, in my experience, you know, I want to say this in a way that's not at all disparaging. It's not helping anyone develop the tools to be rejected and shake it off and have that be totally fine. So I see that, you know, getting worse and worse in the dating realm of what I'm seeing with my friends, where like, you know, I'm hanging out with a guy friend. This happened a couple weeks ago, and he sees this girl who's really cute, and I'm like, go say hi. And he's like, oh, I don't know, you know, I'll see if I could find her on Tinder. It's like, what? You're here in person. Like, just go ask her out. If she says no, big deal. We'll laugh about it and continue to drink our tea. So it's this like, it's exactly what you're saying. It's like overprotection isn't allowing us to develop the tools and skills necessary to have strong self-esteem and know ourselves as invincible, regardless of, you know, whatever hiccups or rejections we meet along the way.
Yeah, the resilience. And your story, you mentioned something about the helmets in the bike. So I remember a friend of mine, a classmate, he had an accident when riding his bike. We probably were like, I don't know, maybe 9, 10, something like that. And he fell from his bike, bit his tongue, and so I don't remember if he completely bit it off, but I remember that that the doctors fixed it with, I think it's called epoxy. I'm not sure the thing in the word in English, but a kind of like what's this? Something that you use to stick.
It's epoxy.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So they fixed it with that, and I was like, "What did they use to fix his tongue?" But then there we go. The guy is all right. He had that accident. He learned something, whatever, and they luckily they were able to fix the tongue. If not, he would have had to learn how to be in the world without being able to speak, I guess. But which I wouldn't wish on him or anybody else. But okay, that's what his life here, I guess, is about. Like those videos of these guys that have like no arms and no legs, and they share their story of accomplishments and beating obstacles in life and depression and whatever. I mean, of course, you don't wish that on somebody, but everything. We are so incredible. We human. We are able to face and triumph in such amazing and incredible situations. You know, we are so incredible to this power of adapting, right? It's, I don't know, it's spiritual, it's amazing, and this overprotection of people is working against that, because then their highest achievement is that they fought against the I don't know, something silly. I don't know. I can't think of an example now because it feels so dumb. Did you get the year of the generations? Did you find that?
Oh, so I just looked it up. Let's see. So millennials, also known as Generation Y or Z. Okay, here's a chart.
I think I'm that millennial.
Millennials are 81 to 96.
Yeah, 88, me.
Yeah, so you're in the millennial, which I think is also Gen Y. And then Gen Z is 97 to 2012.
Mm.
Yeah, so you're Y.
Gen Y. Very cool. And so let me see what maybe if you want we could kind of wrap up this first hour.
Sure.
I'm not sure how long we've been going in, but I want us to, the main thing I wanted us to focus on, which we haven't touched yet because because whatever, it's just how it works. The Aquarian Dialogues, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to talk about being, you know, this thing that's so evident, so simple, and at the same time so confusing and so hard to understand, it seems. And I want to speak about being, especially from this linguistic perspective, you know, because and kind of the cliffhanger or whatever that I leave right now, as we are closing this first hour, is that we make it so complicated with the language because to be in both English and in Spanish, they are what we call irregular verbs. So the most simple and most evident thing, we just choose to call it in the most complicated way that we can. And I think there comes this kind of clash between the reality and the nature and our filters and our perceptions and our thoughts, our beliefs, our presuppositions of existence. So yeah, that's the thing that I would like for us to touch on in the next hour. Okay,
cool. That sounds fun.
Awesome. Well, so please go ahead and share with everybody any links that you would like for them to find your work and to follow you.
Okay, so the umbrella to find all my stuff is danikatz.com. I recommend joining my locals page because that's where I'm posting all my videos and bonus content, having monthly Q&As. That's kind of my headquarters right now. I'm teaching a language of healing webinar on June 13th. I'm not sure if this will post before then. It will be recorded if it's not. So that's a way that we get to workshop and play together. And you can find me on Instagram, something.dani. You have to type it in every single word and dot because they have until this moment really enjoyed shadow banning me. And I hold out a miracle for that to shift any second.
Awesome. But yeah, and you can find me on Instagram as well as @Rafa, kind of like Batman, but without the B. And I also welcome everybody to join the Mystic Times Patreon. It's patreon.com/Rafa Martinelli, my name. And well, we'll see you guys in the second hour. And thank you so much for being there. Have a great time, everyone. Bye.